Okay, so hello and hi. This is another Felix the Phnatic episode, and it's as always brought to you by Paleo Gaming and our good sponsors over at the Chirp app. It's been a pleasure chirping for this entire spring split, and if you haven't gotten it yet, get that app for your iOS device ready to chirp away for the summer split. But let's talk about the spring split because it has just ended and Fnatic ended up in third place. Not too shabby actually. In fact, that's quite good considering what a rocky split this has been. A few good things during this split. One of them was I Am Katowice, where Fnatic did really well, and the other was this playoffs basically. Other than that, it has been quite grim to watch. But things are looking up, and Fnatic has said all the time that they needed more time to get together, to grow together as a team, to keep on improving, and this playoffs show that it doesn't just seem to be all talk, but actually something happening. So third place is very important because it gives Fnatic, I think it is 50 championship points, and that is going to be a big deal come summer. It was also nice to see that they took down Vitality. So Fnatic, they were the number 6 seed going into the playoffs. Remember, Vitality was the 3rd seed, the hardest opponent they could get in the quarterfinals. Won that quite easily actually, and then they went on to H2K. No, they went on to G2 in the semifinals. That didn't work out too well, but in the 3rd place matchup, it was H2K, and H2K is the team that I expected to be the strongest one coming in. So feels really good to have your team best that team in a best of 5, and that 5-game series against H2K, that was both good and bad. Game 1 and 2 looked really good for Fnatic. Quite convincing wins, but game 3 and 4 were the complete opposite. H2K just dominated. And then in game 5, it actually looked really good for H2K for the most part of that game, but it came down to the crucial team fight, and yeah, Fnatic came out on top and just ended the game. One of the biggest team fight wins I've seen this season actually, or ever. In like just past 30 minutes, they win a team fight and they take down outer mid tower, inner mid tower, inhib tower, inhib, Nexus tower, Nexus tower, and Nexus, all after one team fight. So that was crazy, but go Fnatic. So yeah, a few good things stood out, and like game 1 and 2, they just looked really good overall. That was really great, and a thing to mention here is that Cly actually looked really good. I think Cly has looked good for the entire spring playoffs actually for Fnatic. Which is nice to see because he's gotten a lot of criticism just because he's the new guy, and well, people want to find a scapegoat. I think I'm gonna make an entire video about Cly and his entrance into the Fnatic organization and how that has been received. But I'll talk more about that. But the funny thing to know is that yes, a part of the criticism that he has received, like, are during the regular season, you could see why people would criticize Cly. I mean, if you just look at his stats, he was the 3rd worst support when it came to KDA and kill participation. But during this playoffs, he was actually the 3rd best support player when it comes to KDA, and he had the highest kill participation among support players in the entire EU Spring playoffs. So he really turned it around from regular season to playoffs, and even before that, I think Fnatic looked better right away when they got Cly into the mix. But yeah, we'll talk more about that. Another thing to mention was that especially in game 5 of the H2K series, we saw Spirit the way we wanted to see Spirit since he came in. He took over. man, he owned that jungle, all of the jungle. He started off by taking wolves and then moved in to take Yanko's red buff. Um, and after that, Jankos didn't get much done in his own jungle at all. And since the lanes were swapped and Gamsu was in bottom lane, um, it means that he got a lot of help from all the pressure that Spirit managed to apply on that bottom side of the jungle. So that worked out really well, and it was really nice to finally see Spirit really, really, really dominating that jungle, because that's what we expected when we got these two Korean imports. We were like, we don't really know at what level Gamsu is, but Spirit, wow, Spirit is probably gonna be completely dominant in the European LCS. At least I thought so, considering his background. But it took some time for him to get into the groove and to get Fnatic to play around his ability to do that, to completely take over on like these carry style junglers. But both in IM Katowice and in some of the later games when it has looked good, but especially now in playoffs, I think Spirit and Klai have looked really, really good. Gamsu, he's looking up and down. I think it was game 4, maybe, against H2K. Now in the third place match, that Gamsu seemed really, really disconnected from the team, and we still see some communication issues right there. In the last episode of Phoelix The Phnatic, I talked about how the communication issues revolve a lot around how to make plays around teleports, and since Gamsu is one of the people always using that teleport, he's going to be one of the people looking bad because of those communication issues. But maybe it's a team issue that just makes Gamsu look bad, and not really that Gamsu is bad. But in this game 4 against H2K, the communication issues were more like Fnatic is going this way, but Gamsu's going this way. It almost looked like, you know, a solo queue game where you're just home alone by your computer, not in comms with the team, just doing your thing, trying to carry, but you know, getting a little tilted. And yeah, so that was a shame to see that Gamsu really really didn't get things going there, and that we might have some communication issues still. But then again, third place in the spring playoffs, and we can still point to obvious things that doesn't look all that well, means that there's still a lot of room to improve for Fnatic going into the summer split. So, yeah, it might not be too much to hope for an even better position than third come summer. So, yeah, and 50 championship points, that's going to be awesome. And if we look at Europe as a whole for this spring, I'm both a bit surprised, and I'm also a bit pleased that I got some predictions right. I think it was in an early Pally Sports that me and Salah talked about how I thought the European Spring Split would stack up, how the teams would stack up, and I thought that H2K would be probably the most dominant team in EU, and that they would win the whole shebang. And I also thought that Argent would come on really strong because they did not make a lot of changes, and the one they did made a lot of sense considering where they've been falling short earlier. So yeah, I really thought that Argent would go strong, and when starting off in this split, H2K looked really, really, really strong, and Argent looked really, really bad. But here we are. H2K fell down to a 4th place, and Origin went all the way to the finals. So in the end, I was both right and wrong. I'll take the win, and I'll learn from the loss. I did not expect G2 to come in as strong as they did, but kudos to them. An extremely well played first split in the LCS. Can't say anything else than that. But the big question right now for Europe is, what the hell happened to H2K? What the hell happened to H2K? They have among the best players in Europe on every position. They are an extremely good team when it comes to the macro play and map control, objective control. I mean, if we look at some stats here, I think this is just for the playoffs. H2K, they were the second best team when it comes to goal difference at 15 minutes. They have the second highest first blood ratings. They're the team that took the most first dragons and the most first towers, and they're the second best teams when it comes to wards placed per minute and the best teams when it comes to wards cleared per minute. Okay, this just screams map control and like early game control. They have the gold lead, they have the vision control, they take the first bloods. I mean, this is like a recipe for winning the game, basically, that they've got in the playoffs. But they don't make it. They don't win. And against Fnatic, it came down to a team fight. So maybe the thing is that H2K is focusing so much on the objective control side. I mean, you can't be the best at everything, and if you work that hard to become so exceptionally well at the macro play, maybe you do give up strengths in other areas. For example, team fighting. And the thing about League of Legends is that even if you do control the map that well, sooner or later you're going to have to kill the opposing team in a fight in order to get to that nexus. And the better you've played before that, taking down objectives, the easier that should be. The problem though for H2K is now in this meta with this early long death timers, it means that if they lose a team fight after 30 minutes, they can lose the game, even though they've controlled the entire game up until that point. Like we pretty much saw in Game 5 against Fnatic. H2K led that game quite decisively for the majority of the game, and then all of a sudden they decide to take one team fight, and Fnatic fights better. They win the fight, and then they just push down the lane, straight down the middle lane to a win. So I think that's what H2K needs to work on, to make sure that they don't lose these big team fights. I mean, even if they do build this big lead, if you don't manage to just squeeze your opponent dead, choke him completely, they are going to be in a position where they can still fight you when you come later on in the game. And if you can't win that team fight, you're not going to win the game. Doesn't matter how many towers you have. Doesn't matter how many dragons you take. Doesn't matter if Jankos is the king of first blood. In the end, you're going to fight your opponents. You need to win that fight. Especially in this meta. It's become super important considering how long the death timers are. But going into Summer Split, it's going to be interesting to see how H2K fares, because I believe they played their last game with Forgiven now, who's going off to do his military service. So we're going to see a new AD carry, and I don't know. Hopefully we'll see the rest of the roster remain. I'm thinking that out of these top tier teams that have performed well and went to playoffs, most of them are probably going to look the same when it comes to the rosters. I would hope. I mean, like take Fnatic for example. You've got these 5 players together, and look how much time it took to get them to work as well as they do now. More roster changes might very well set you back. I mean, yes, coming into the spring split of season 5, everything went great, even though they replaced 4 players. But that is not how it works. That is the anomaly. If you switch out almost the entire team, it doesn't matter how good the players you bring in are. You're going to need some time to get those 5 players to work together as a functioning unit. And that is what we see in this version of Fnatic, that they needed time to work together. And now that they've got that, they actually look a lot better than they did for the most part of the regular split. So to change things up is probably not the best of ideas. You should just keep working at this and grow even stronger. I think Fnatic will grow stronger for the summer split. I think Origin will keep on improving. They started improving a lot during the later parts of this split. H2K, we'll see what happens, because they actually declined a little, but they have time. They got this great coach in Prawley, and we'll see what happens. Vitality, their new roster, with time things should just go better and better for them as well if they just keep working on it. They have good players over there. They also have a good coach, so I think Vitality will also be a team that is even stronger. I think Europe as a region is going to be even stronger come summer. And that is the thing that I take away from this split in a whole, that compared to last season, this region has become so much more competitive. Last split, the summer split of season 5, we saw a top 3 that consisted of Fnatic, Origin, and H2K. And there was like 3 tiers in this top 3. There was one tier 1 team that was Fnatic, the 18-0 Fnatic. Origin couldn't touch them, and Origin were the tier 2 team. H2K, that was the tier 3 team, had no way of touching Origin really. Origin was way better than H2K. And now, in this split, we've got a top 5 that is all super good teams that are all viable contenders for Worlds qualifications, the way I see it, in G2, Origin, Fnatic, H2K, and Vitality. And here's where we come back to what I said early on about the championship points and how important it was to snatch that 3rd place away from H2K. Because consider this, there are 3 ways to qualify for Worlds. One is you win the summer split. One team is going to do that. The second is one team is going to qualify through championship points. One team is going to do that. And the third is you run the gauntlet. And there are going to be a lot of good teams in the gauntlet. Let's say that we have the same finals with the same result come summer. Let's say that G2 wins summer as well. That means that Origin is going to take championship points. That would mean that Fnatic, H2K, and Vitality, among other teams, are in the gauntlet. If you really want to qualify for Worlds, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to fight against those teams to get there. That is stiff competition. Okay, so obviously everybody's gonna fight for winning the summer split, but if you don't do that, you want to make sure to stack up enough championship points to not have to go through the gauntlet, because you're going to need to take down a lot of great teams in order to get through Worlds through the gauntlet. I mean, last split, Origin, they were only there for the summer split, so H2K took the championship points quite easily, and Origin, they were in the gauntlet, and like there was no one in the gauntlet that was ever going to touch Origin, not even close. So like those 3 teams, it was like, yeah, they're gonna qualify for Worlds. There, and in that order as well. That was the thing. It was, everything was so obvious last split. Like Fnatic was clearly the best team. H2K was clearly the 3rd best team, but they were going to get the championship points because Origin wasn't around during Spring Split, and Origin was obviously going to have no problems going through the gauntlet. So everything was decided early on, basically. This next qualification for Worlds, we're going to have a lot of teams competing for those 3 spots. So I'm really looking forward to the summer split, and I'm really glad that we get these 50 championship points for Fnatic going in there. It's going to it might be the difference, really. Getting a 3rd place now might be what gets Fnatic to Worlds. And having lost that 3rd place might very well be what makes H2K unable to reach Worlds. Who knows? We'll see. But nonetheless, we're coming in with a little bit of a cushion, a more comfortable cushion than both Vitality and H2K do. So that is really nice. So yeah, that's it for now, for today. And like I said, I'm going to do a video probably about Cly soon. I don't know if I'm going to make a video about the NA LCS and how that stacked up. A lot of interesting things happened, but yeah, I'll see if I get around to it before it like feels too old news, told news to do that. But yeah, thanks again to Chirp, our lovely sponsors. Go check out our friends over at the LOL History app, paleogaming.com, of course, and I will see you when I see you. Bye.